No, thank you very much for the opportunity. Domestic oil and gas, its resilience and its energy security. And it's times like these when we have geopolitical crises that we feel this need most of all. Energy is required for European homes, for businesses, for industrial facilities. They need large and continuous amounts of natural gas. And if you look at Europe, currently about 58% of Europe's energy mix is oil and gas. And almost all of it is imported. 97% of crude oil, 88% of gas. And if you look ahead to 2050, the picture is not going to change that dramatically globally. Globally, over 50% of the energy mix will still be oil and gas. And even in Europe, the most forward-leaning continent when it comes to GHG reductions, is going to be importing about 166 BCM of gas, about 5.1 million barrels a day. So about half of what it's doing now. And so what that really underscores is that investment is critical. Investment in oil and gas cannot go away. And this area, Europe has considerable untapped potential. I spend plenty of time in meetings where European officials tell me there are no hydrocarbons. They're wrong. And sitting here where we are and looking at Southeastern Europe and looking at Eastern Med, we see the exciting potential. ExxonMobil is involved in this exciting potential along with our partners, Energia and Hellenic. We are moving ahead with exploration drilling in early next year. And ExxonMobil's footprint in the Eastern Med extends to Egypt and Cyprus, where we've also made the announcement of commerciality. So this is a region that can add to Europe's energy security, and we're excited. But I have to temper some of that excitement with the reality of the European regulatory environment, which is extremely challenging. And unfortunately, some people don't view indigenous production as the incredible resource and tool that it is. Instead, they view it as something that needs to be punished or eliminated. And if I could point to a couple of examples, unstable fiscal or tax regimes, the Net Zero Industry Act legislation, which, for a good purpose, carbon capture, imposes a retroactive tax on oil and gas companies, telling them that they have to provide a service for which there is no market currently. They have to do it in a time period which is not possible, thereby opening themselves up to extensive penalties. I could also look at the EU methane regulation. Again, an example of a regulation where there's no disagreement over the objective. We all want to eliminate methane and mitigate it to the extent possible. But the regulation is written in a way and according to a timeline that can't be met by industry. And so it leaves industry in the position of either having to operate illegally or to stop bringing oil and gas into Europe. Now, we've heard Commission talk about easing or waiving penalties. That's not going to provide us the legal certainty we need. And thankfully, at least 17 member states are already taking on board the concerns and looking for opportunities to try to fix the regulation. Because it's simply unfair to ask businesses to operate out of compliance. And frankly, it's unfair to ask European consumers to pay higher oil and gas prices simply because the implementation structure of a regulation is not in place. And so I guess, if I could make my plea to policymakers, particularly in Brussels, but also member states. And I have to say we have excellent collaboration with the governments of Greece and Cyprus, who have been putting maximum effort in this collaborative effort to bring new energy resources to the region. But my plea is recognize the strategic importance of domestic energy, remove the excessive regulatory barriers, establish the stable fiscal regimes. Don't pick winners when it comes to decarbonization. Let the market figure this out. Let industry drive lower carbon technology. And then finally, realize the potential of this region. Help us invest here. Don't punish the investors.